What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatic YouTube channel. And thank you guys for tuning in to episode number 3 of Inside the Bcfc as we are joined on a weekly basis to talk about all things in the British Columbia Football Conference. So back at it once again here tonight to talk about week number 2 across the conference as the weeks are already flying by. As this is episode 3, but we are going to be chatting about all things that happened in week 2 tonight. Unfortunately, things are going to be transitioning, I guess you could say, here on the channel and with the show. So we'll chat about that in a little bit. So we won't be joined by a guest, but we're going to be breaking down and recapping all things week 2, chatting a little bit about week 3 to end the show here tonight. But of course, if you guys are tuning in and you guys have continued to tune into Inside the BCFC throughout the season, if you guys could be a friend and leave a like down on the video, of course, we if you could as well, comment down below. Let us know how you guys are feeling so far through 2 weeks in the BCFC season. Most importantly, subscribing to the channel. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys will get notified every single time we go live or upload any sort of videos like this one specifically. So, as I said, folks, can't believe we've already wrapped up week 2. And it seems like we were in the off season waiting for things to be kicked off, and now the weeks are going to be flying by as the CFL season has already flown by, and we are already 2 months has flown by in that. I would imagine this season will do the same. But as you can tell, I feel like I'm a little bit thrown off to start the show tonight, but that is because it is a late night edition, as it is Monday night here, about 10:30 p.m. as we're going to record a little bit later. Just wanting to, with obviously the Sunday night game last night with Valley taking on West Shore, and that one going a little bit later, not getting the stats till this morning, wanting to get a rewatch of that game as well, due to it being in the same time as the BC Lions game. This is kind of how things worked out. So a little bit of a later night edition. Can't lie that I am a tad tired, folks, as I do work in construction. So it's usually early morning. So I'm going to have to get this recorded for you guys here tonight, and hopefully a quick turnaround so it's uploaded to you guys to consume by Tuesday morning. That would be July 29th. Hopefully, so you guys can, if you guys weren't able to, enjoy the action over the weekend, the beautiful weekend here in BC. And if you weren't able to catch the replay on the BCFC's YouTube channel, which I highly recommend, a great feature and resource that the BC Lions, or excuse me, the BCFC is able to upload the games each week, because I know it can get pricey. If you're not able to, buy the seasons pass and you're having to order the games on an individual basis, you're obviously having to, that fork over $75 per weekend, which is, probably not affordable for a lot of folks. So I get it if maybe you're able to, if you're not able to catch a game here and there and you miss, even 2 out of 3 games throughout the weekend. So that's what we're here for, to recap things on a weekly basis, chat about what's happened throughout the weekend and all the games going on. So before we get to week 2's action, because there was 3 exciting games to chat about, we're going to give you guys a little bit of a update here on the channel. So nothing is changing. We are still partnering with the conference, still officially working with the conference officially, and excited to show that once we get a VI Raiders home game, and I know I'm planning some other trips for to take in Langley Rams at VI when VI goes over there. I'll definitely go down to Langford when VI heads down there as well. So I'm going to be at a few of the parks throughout the season, so definitely going to plan on doing some content while we're there. That being said, things are going to transition a little bit with Inside the BCFC. We're going to continue to have it on our channel, I believe, as unfortunately, I'm unfortunately just being a little bit left in the dark as of the recording of this one. So I'm just waiting for kind of the higher ups, the people that are paid to do this job, and that are this is above my pay grade, is I guess what I'm trying to say. As I know, behind the scenes, people are trying to work things out and get an idea of what I guess they want me to do on a weekly basis. So as I mentioned, things are being worked out behind the scenes. Kind of just waiting for orders as of now. The one kind of feedback that we did get was to shorten the episodes and kind of adapt them a little bit. So what we're going to do with the shortening of the episodes is we're going to break things up into probably 2 uploads per week. As I mentioned, still waiting for our orders, so pending on getting stuff back, things could change, obviously, which my apologies, folks. Would have loved to have this figured out before the season had started, but as I mentioned, things happen, and this is the circumstances that we're in. But as of now, this is kind of my plan, is to upload inside the BCFC every maybe Monday or Tuesday morning for you guys, and treat it as like the Monday morning quarterback kind of thing for the BCFC, where we recap things, and treat it as maybe a shorter episode. So maybe we aim for like about 25, 20 minutes or so, a nice quick get in, get out, and just chat some BC football, and kind of get things wrapped up on the week. And then what we'll do later in the week is we'll give you guys another upload, and we'll, as I said, with things still being worked out, kind of like a spotlight series where we'll spotlight a coach player, which we have been doing inside the BCFC. We'll just break it into 2 uploads, so nothing will change. It'll just come in 2 different uploads where we'll recap things, start the week, and maybe we'll give you guys a player spotlight going into the game, kind of thing. So stay tuned. As I mentioned, you guys can follow us on our social media platforms. You guys can find us at Canadian Football Fanatic on Instagram, at _CF Fanatic on Twitter, and I will leave the BCFC's social media handles down below in the description. Other than that, as I mentioned, folks, the feedback from you guys would be greatly appreciated. So please be sure to leave a comment on the video. Let us know how you guys are feeling on the social media platforms as well. I've got a few DMs from people on our Canadian Football Fanatics account, so we appreciate those first and foremost. But we'd love to hear the feedback from you guys. So let us know, reach out in the DMs. If you guys are players, let us know how you guys would like to, the narrative, the storylines that maybe you guys would like to have be, spoken and talked about on a weekly basis. So I'd love to hear from players as well, coaches. There's been a few. So the sport has been awesome, as we have noticed with our subscriber count going up, and our following on our social media platforms. It's been noticed, so we appreciate you guys so much. But as I mentioned, the more feedback, the better. And we just want to make things as best as possible and as enjoyable as possible for you guys throughout the week. So other than that, I think pretty good as far as updates. As I mentioned, content on game days is going to be pretty fun. Going to be making my color analyst debut this season on the Vancouver Island Raiders home broadcast with my good friend Noah Atnikoff. Looking forward to that one, as the VAR Raiders go into their week number 3 bye week, when they come out of it in week 4, having to wait a long month, 4 weeks to make my debut up in the booth, where I will be calling the games throughout the season. As I mentioned, they're going to be doing some content on game days. So if you guys are players, look out for me at the field pregame. If I'm bothering you, let me know, and hopefully I'm not bothering you too much. Just trying to, as I mentioned, grow the game, give you guys a little bit of spotlight, as well as add to some storylines for games and this season. So let's get into it before we waste too much time. As I mentioned, for the rest of this video and for the rest of the season, we'll kind of aim for about 25, maybe even get to 30 minutes, considering tonight we had to do some updates and whatnot. And then we'll recap things quickly. So what we're going to do here is dive back into Saturday's action across the BC Football Conference. So 2 games, 3 weeks, 3 games slate in week number 2 in the BCFC, but 2 games being played on Saturday and 1 lone game on Sunday. I know this has happened from time to time. Being a alumni in the BCFC, a former player, definitely one of those ones that it's better when you're able to have it. If you're maybe an NFL fan, July, August, that kind of time of year, opposed to maybe September, October, where I've had a few Sunday games in September, October, which is a little bit of a bummer, but and just kind of throws off your routine throughout a week and your schedule, I guess, your body clock and whatnot. An odd one in as I mentioned with the Sunday game. I'd be curious to know what kind of went into that in terms of maybe some scheduling in Langford at Starlight Stadium there, why the Sunday afternoon kickoff. So before we get into that one, which we have a lot to chat about in that one, as it was a crazy game, just actually rewatching it back, as I was able to catch majority of the game, but kind of in and out. for the most part, if we're being quite honest, on first watch as the BC Lions were playing, and with our responsibilities there and covering the BC Lions and doing our post game reports, all that good stuff, having to make sure that we're locked in on that side of things as well. So had to watch both games, had to do our BC Lions post game report, so had to stay a little bit more locked in on that one. But as I mentioned, the great ability and great asset that is the Bcfc YouTube channel, able to the games be able to be uploaded there and up the next morning was fantastic. Actually, the VI Raiders one is uh, one sided as that one was up the next morning. Was able to watch that Sunday morning as well, which was fantastic. So before we get to those two games, let's rewind a little bit. Let's get to the Prince George victory. Them getting their first victory on the season, getting to 1-1 on the year. And Prince George, this was, a good quality victory for Prince George. I would say it was a tale of two halves in ways for, both clubs, where a strong finish for the Kodiaks and their defense and their offense, specifically, I believe they put up 19 points there in the second half, 3 turnovers as well in the second half. So a strong finish for the Kodiaks. But going into the locker room there at halftime, it was a 14-13 game, a very close competitive ball game where Kamloops was able to generate some momentum in their favor in the second quarter off 2 touchdowns of their own. But I guess maybe to kind of get into the Kamloops a little bit before we get into the Prince George side of things is, offensively, I think right now they're going through a little bit of growing pains with obviously the circumstances that they were put into going into the season. The, projected starting quarterback to go into the season goes down with a broken wrist. They end up having to start their backup quarterback last week. He ends up going down to injury, and youngster rookie third string quarterback Chase Witzel, Chase Witzel, excuse me, Chase Witzel ends up coming into the game for them and played about 3/4, majority of that ball game last week for them, and then gets his first official start in the CDFL this past week. And I think he made some strides, right? Obviously, maybe the numbers aren't the greatest if you're looking at just the numbers purposes, but if we're looking at the numbers and you want to take, and put all those into account, the 2 touchdown passes I thought were fabulous throws, fantastic throws for a young quarterback like that to give him some confidence, which I would imagine it did. Hopefully, going forward now, he's able to learn, and especially, where you do get the rare occasions in, pro football, maybe more specifically, where you get, the Aaron Rodgers or the Patrick Mahomes, is the Andrew Lucks, I guess you could even say, were guys that maybe even sit for a season and end up, being able to brew and slow cook and develop into something where they're a starter the very next season. I think for the most part, you learn by doing, right? For a young quarterback like this, and for the way things are going, maybe during the game, it's kind of trial by fire, right? You're learning in the kitchen, right? Where if it's too hot, get the F out of the kitchen, I believe is the saying. And this kid's standing in there, he's taking hits in the pocket. He's not shying away from things. As I mentioned, with some of the struggles, the interceptions, he's still standing there, slinging the ball, still throwing touchdowns as he was able to. Congratulations to him as he was able to throw his first career CDFL touchdown pass. As I said, the first one on the corner route to, let me just bring it up. I forget who the receiver was. Brock Dufort, number 19. Beautiful corner route by Chase that he was able to throw to the receiver, where his receiver was the only one that was going to be able to catch it. And then as well, another, trust ball to Colton Meikle down the seam, where at the time he let the ball go. Colton's covered maybe in his eyes, right? Where that's something that he probably has to learn, right, as a high school quarterback, where something for myself, having experience, right, being a quarterback in the BCFC and understanding timing and how fast windows open and close from, the high school level to BCFC, right? Trusting that Colton would be in that spot, and he let it go before he was open. Colton was able to run open, and as I mentioned, was a fantastic play by Chase, and he should be proud of it as well. And hopefully he's able to, get this snowball starting to build and starting to grow in the right direction, and starting to hopefully push it down the hill and starting to build it and build some momentum for him and his season. down the stretch here. So, other than that, I guess we could get into PG here quickly. PG, led by Carter Halverson, a impressive running back that I believe the 100-yard mark, if I'm not mistaken, as I maybe bring up the stats here once again. His name was coming up though all afternoon. Yeah, 19 carries for 110 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, chipping in on the ground. He was an impressive player to watch on Saturday for the Kodiaks. Was able to keep them in some second and manageable situations, keep them in some favorable down and distances, as well as finish the job when his number was called upon and get his team on the board with 14 points for him, representing 14 points alone is what I'm trying to get out of here, folks. And then, Sawyer Thiessen, I thought, or Thiessen, had another solid game, another solid outing. Still yet to throw a touchdown pass, if I'm not mistaken. So I think, as solid of a game it was for Sawyer, there is still some more, I think, to be had on the field. And I think Sawyer would even say that too. And I think that gives, or should give, Kodiak's fans and coaches and that locker room confidence that going forward, 1-1, have the matchup with Okanagan this upcoming weekend. But our offense, I feel like, still hasn't put it together for 60 minutes yet, and they're still trending upwards. And I still feel like there's still a bigger performance out there for them to have in the season at some point. So really curious to see and keep an eye on Sawyer Thiessen as a quarterback, somebody that I really enjoy watching on a weekly basis throughout the conference. And I think a guy that, as I mentioned, has put together 2 solid outings so far this season. But I still think there's some bigger games for him to have out there. So, as I mentioned already, with the defense and kind of a tale of two halves, 13 points in allowing them in the first half. They end up pitching the shutout in the second half against Kamloops. The 3 turnovers as well, doing a good job of giving their offense extra possessions, a good outing and good confidence, boosting game for them as well to, see those turnovers start to come in bunches, right? I believe is the saying, right? Where maybe they come in a game like this and you can maybe generate some turnovers versus Okanagan, and that's probably, a recipe versus a team like Okanagan who's going to come in, rightfully the favorite next week, especially in the Apple Bowl. What's the recipe to maybe upsetting a team like that if you're the Prince George Kodiaks? Turning over the football, creating extra possessions for your offense. I think hopefully if you're the Kodiaks and Prince George, you're hoping that, as I mentioned, turnovers start to come in bunches. So they did a fantastic job on that front, and hopefully for them, they're able to see the ball continue to go in their favor. So wrap game number 1 up. Prince George getting their first victory over the Kamloops Broncos in a 33-13 victory as we move on to game number 2. And man, the Okanagan Suns dominance continues as their point differential now moves up to, I believe, a plus 81 now on the season as they come off a 39-0 victory over the Langley Rams, and they have a dominating victory once again versus Vancouver Island Raiders in week 2, 42-zip. Have still not allowed a touchdown, have still not allowed any points to be scored on the board defensively. And that defense is a group to be reckoned with. I would imagine they're going to be playing at a very high level all season. It is going to be very tough to crack the code that is the Okanagan Sun defense this upcoming season. And a group that is, if you are obviously an opposing fan base or maybe an opposing player, it's obviously maybe not fun to watch. But if you're a fan of football, if you're tuning in and you're a Canadian football fanatic is what we maybe like to call them, or you're living in the BC area here and you're looking for something to watch maybe on a Saturday afternoon, tune in on Saturdays and watch the Okanagan Sun play, because very exciting, very physical, very the Sun way, I guess is what I would call it here the last few years, where they're playing their brand of football and they're playing at a very high level. So very big shout out and kudos to Coach Travis Miller, who has that group playing the way they are right now and playing at a very high standard, right, where they could, excuse my French, I guess, or excuse my, I hate that I have to even say that, but they could think their shit don't stink, right? Of we won the Cullen Cup last year. We dominated the Bcfc going 10-0. We're going to do it again, but they have that mentality, that have that standard to continue to be dominant, continue to put up victories. And still, I would imagine Coach Miller, I think the silver lining to a victory like this for Coach Miller is that, yes, they had a dominant victory in this fashion, but he'll probably be the first one to come in on Sunday morning there, watch the film, and still have a ton to work on for his team. Be very hungry, be very motivated to get better because you know VI, I believe it was a very 13-0 game. I believe was what it was at the half there, where Okanagan, yes, came out, started very fast with the 13-0 start. I believe 6.5 minutes into the game, where they started with possession of the football, were able to drive down the field, get a touchdown. Then they ended up forcing a interception. Paul Marin was able to get his first of 2 interceptions on the day on that first drive offensively for VI, giving his team possession in great field position. And then a few plays later, they were able to cap it off with a touchdown pass, making it 13-0 before VI even felt like they got off the bus up there in Okanagan. But as I mentioned, VI's defense was able to keep them in there, hold them in there, and play pretty well for the rest of the half. It finished the half 13-0. So for the remainder of, what is it, 21 some odd minutes or something like that, or maybe even it's even more, 24 odd minutes, something like that. VI's defense didn't allow a touchdown for the rest of the half, right? Where they just couldn't, unfortunately, get anything going offensively. So, don't really need to talk too much about the Okanagan Sun defense, to be honest. We've talked about it quite a bit already, and it's only 2 weeks in, 3 shows in, and we're going to continue to give them their flowers and have them on when their time comes to spotlight their players and whatnot, because we're not going to want to leave anybody out. But the Okanagan Sun are just dominating right now, and it's impressive to watch, to be quite frank. And it's going to be interesting to see who can really get in their way throughout the season, who can maybe slow them down, who can give them a test, because on any given Saturday, who knows what happens with a team like PG Valley, West Shore, who knows who it might be. But I'm talking about the Okanagan Sun just to close things out. Big shout out to Phil Palmarin. I know a leader looked upon in that defense and a stud throughout that defense. He finishes the game at the linebacker position with 2 interceptions. No Jacob Bond. They're able to have guys like Grayson Statham, Phil Palmarin. Is it Grayson Statham? Yeah, it's Grayson Statham. And just guys that step up in their absence in Jacob's absence. And it's not even guys that step up, right? Guys that are starters in that defense, but guys that are able to withhold that standard, withhold that floor, I guess is probably the best way to put it, right? That there's no drop off with missing a guy like that, which is very impressive to say that, the next guy kind of just steps right up and is able to, the standard is the standard, and that's how things roll on that defense. Another shout out on that defense, Tyreek Brown, fantastic performance on his behalf, and he finishes with 2 interceptions as well. I would say the catch of the week, if it wasn't for Robert Carter Jr., BC Lions defensive back, who had arguably, the catch of the year, the catch of the CFL season for sure. The same Saturday, or excuse me, actually, it wasn't the same Saturday, but the same weekend. And Brown fantastically pulled down one of his 2 interceptions with one hand, and was very impressive interception as well. So when talking about VI, I know Coach Rabsky is definitely not going to be happy with his performance from his team. The standard was definitely not met for sure. I would imagine they're going to go into a bye week with a sour taste in their mouths, offensively, defensively. Unfortunately, I think I thought a little bit. I know Coach LeBurge, quite well, was able to be his backup quarterback, and we have a fairly good relationship. I thought, it was unfortunate, just circumstances and whatnot. I thought maybe stuck with the run a little bit longer than we would like I would like to see, but I believe 24 carries, I think was the official number afterwards. Just didn't seem like it was working at all, especially with the Okanagan Sun really putting VI, I feel like, in a lot of tough situations in second and longs with, trying to run the ball on first down to establish that run. And I understand it from that perspective, but it just really felt like it wasn't working early on, and maybe tried to adapt that game plan. If that was the game plan, I totally get it for sure, but maybe trying to adapt the game plan to maybe a little bit of a shorter, quick hitters attack, excuse me. But something that with the bye week, right, you're able to get into the film room, get a little bit of a better look, and maybe get, yeah, this is something that we can work on. This is something that we can get better at. Maybe you know what? No, I disagree, right? If you're Coach LeBerg, right? I think this was kind of the game plan that I wanted to go into the game with, and something that I wanted to stick with. So, fair enough if that is the case. Just something that kind of one of my observation, ob- observing. I don't know why I can't observations. I don't know why I can't say that word right now, but um, from watching the game, observations is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why observations, observations. Um, that's too funny. Observations from watching the game, observations. That is too good to think about. But as I mentioned, it is 11 o'clock, folks. I am getting a tad tired, as this would be by far bedtime on a regular occasion. But one of my observations from the game, as I mentioned, was just kind of that aspect in VI. I would imagine, as I said, Coach LeBurge, Coach Rabsky will go into the bye week with not only a sour taste in their mouth, but no, that's not their team, right? They do have a better team. I would think the Langley Rams feel the same, right? That's not the Langley Rams, the 39-0. That's not the VI Raiders as well. I would imagine both teams are going to be motivated to Langley, I believe, is coming out of the bye this week. VI next week to come out of the bye and prove that they're a better team on the field. So I believe that kind of wraps things up from that game as well. Game number 3, quickly before we get out of here, as we're approaching about 27 minutes. What a football game this was. You know, tough. We're gonna definitely talk about some tough situations, but positive situations to start. Hoffland for the West Shore Rebels. Allow me to introduce myself here, Hoffland. Tyrell Hoffland for the West Shore Rebels, wide receiver. He starts off the game with a bang, setting the tone for the Rebels in their home opener, returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and was a fantastic tone setter for his group that really grasped, the energy, the momentum early on there, really kind of set the tone, as I mentioned. No really other better way to put it for his group. And West Shore really didn't look back from there. I know we're going to get into it maybe now of it's 7-0 early on, and I believe Valley gets the ball back. And unfortunately, Valley, a Valley player ends up going down to a pretty significant injury. I'm hoping that this is correct, that, the broadcast did have it correct, that Christian Beck, I believe, is the Valley Husker player that did go down with injury. So, T's and P's, Christian, thoughts and prayers to you, buddy. I believe it was a pretty significant injury, as there was a pretty lengthy delay. I believe they mentioned on the broadcast of it being about 45, 50-ish minutes, ambulance having to come and whatnot. So, as I said, thoughts and prayers to Christian, as that's something that I hate to see as a former player, not only as a former player, but in, week 1 early on in the first few minutes of the game, right? A lot of excitement there, and a lot of hope early on in the season that you're going to have a big season and whatnot, and definitely a gut punch, and definitely one that's an unfortunate situation for not only the player involved, but the team. I feel like Valley kind of didn't, I feel like, maybe bounce back the way they maybe not would have liked, but just you get put in that situation. I've been there, as I mentioned, a former player. Actually, one of my very good friends. I'd call me one of my best friends growing up, and a player that I played my junior band in high school and junior football with. Watched him go down to a significant injury when he broke his leg. Playing the Langley Rams when we were in the Bcfc, and just it kind of messes with you, right? You kind of have to, NFL players are very good at being able to flip the switch of, going back out there and handling their business, doing their job. And I know the broadcast talks about it quite a bit when that happens in the NFL. But, I feel like it's a little bit harder when maybe you're not playing at the professional level, and money's not, an incentive. And maybe it shouldn't be, right? And as maybe as grimy as that sounds from an NFL perspective, from a human perspective, I feel like it's just one of those things that are hard to shake. So, not a knock at Valley whatsoever, but just kind of one of those observations on my behalf. But uh, kind of a funny one there. I would rewind if you just skipped over a little bit just to go see what the inside joke there on that one. But as I mentioned, thoughts and prayers to Christian Beck. Hopefully he's able to make a quick recovery. But from that point on, it was definitely a interesting one from Valley's perspective, as they weren't really able to get much going. There were some missed opportunities on their behalf, as they had two turnovers and downs with the ball in, first one inside the red zone, inside I believe the 15-yard line, which scoring position could have had another 3 or 7 points up on the scoreboard, and another one where they turn over the ball at midfield with possession of the football as well. So just a tough afternoon for them. And then the ultimate backbreaker that kind of really, the floodgates kind of blew open from there. Not even the floodgates blew open from there, but just ultimately the backbreaker from there, where it's I believe 13-3 ball game, I believe, at that point for the West Shore Rebels, where things were kind of just hanging in the balance. The game felt like it was waiting for either team to kind of take control of it going into half, and it looked like Valley was going to be maybe able to do that. And then West Shore threw their haymaker right back, and Gavin Sessions was able to find Zion Brown on the sideline for a big play touchdown, and Zion Brown was able to continue to have a hot start to the season, as he had the 189 yards, 3 touchdowns last week, over 100 I believe this game for a touchdown as well. So Zion, maybe the best receiver in the BCFC right now. I'll leave that up to you guys to debate that in the comments and on social media and whatnot, but maybe get at me how you guys are feeling about that one. And then just as I mentioned with the weirdness of the game, the circumstances of this now kind of come into play of, it's 20-3 and it's 14 seconds away from halftime, and one of the stick crew members ends up going down with a medical issue as well, ends up a lengthy delay, and they end up going into halftime 14 seconds early, as I mentioned. They end up coming back on the field and having to, stretch and whatnot. As I mentioned, it was another lengthy delay, probably another 30, 40-minute delay, where they come back on the field, finish those 14 seconds. Valley's able to get on the board, make it 23-10 at halftime. They end up flipping the field. Valley ends up getting possession of the football at the 23-10 mark. And, a huge kind of, TSN turning point, basically ball game, right? As I mentioned with the 20-3 Zion Brown touchdown kind of being ball game. This is actually where it was kind of good night Irene kind of curtains from that point, where they just make it 23-10. They go into the fake halftime, and unfortunately, the Huskers start with the football in the second half, and unfortunately, they're unable to score. They end up going, I don't know if it was 2-0, I believe they picked up a first down, then end up punting to West Shore, and West Shore ends up being able to cash in right away and ended up basically good night from there. I believe it was 29-10 from that point, and they pulled away and really didn't look back from that point on. They were able to pour on a few more touchdowns. Hoffland adding to his day, able to add 2 touchdowns there, I believe in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, where he was able to have 3 total ones, the opening kickoff touchdown, the 2 receiving touchdown, and he really put the nail in the coffin. As I mentioned, they really pulled away from there. 29-10 was the score at that point. Ended up being 45-10 with the final Hoffland touchdown, his third of the day, and was a fantastic play. It was a big time backbreaker, as it was 29-10. Valley was punting the ball. They end up getting the punt blocked. West Shore ends up getting the football back, and the next play, I believe, was the Hoffman touchdown, where he was able to make a few defenders miss and get in the end zone, and really kind of put their foot on their neck of Valley Huskers, and kind of, if there was any thoughts of a comeback, there were kind of ended after the ball across the goal line on that one. So basically, kind of leaves me on that game. As I mentioned, have a day if you are Tyrell Hoffland and his stats. I'll bring them up here quickly before we wrap things up, as we are in the 34-minute mark. I know people behind the scenes aren't wanting me to go too long, but just figured I'd have to here. Tyrell Hoffland, 6 receptions, 112 yards for 2 touchdowns. Zion Brown, 4 receptions, 114 yards, and 1 touchdown, which was the 60-yard touchdown. Gavin Sessions was a player that actually really stuck out to me. I was really impressed with his performance, as he was 14 of 21, 293 for 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, as I think we saw a little bit of what we maybe seen from Keyshawn Dorsey here today. Last week, Gavin Sessions' first game, not only in Canadian football, but in, for the Valley Huskers up here in the BCFC, up here in, BC. Kind of had a, up and down game. Was able to really show himself off here, on Sunday evening and for his team. And I'm excited to watch Gavin Sessions continue to play this season. Keyshawn Dorsey was another one. I think there's another level for Keyshawn under center for the Valley Huskers, and I think he's going to continue to prove week over week. A guy that I wouldn't just write off after 1 week, folks. I would continue to follow along with this guy. I think he's going to be an exciting player as he finished 13 to 25, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing. He also chipped in with 8 carries, 93 rushing yards. Yeah, you heard that right. 93 rushing yards, no touchdowns. He had a long of, I want to say it was like 30 or 40 rushing yards on a huge second down conversion. So as I mentioned, Keyshawn Dorsey, pay attention to him, folks. I believe he's going to continue to grow throughout his time with the Valley Huskers. So inside the BCFC episode number 3 for you guys. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed so far as we've continued to cover the season here so far in 2025. We're only 2 weeks in. Not sure how things are going to work out with the spotlight here this week. As I said, guys, things are kind of happening behind the scenes without kind of my hands are tied, unfortunately, right now. This is kind of this is what I've been told as of now to shorten things up. This is what I'm going to do. So we'll see how things work in terms of a spotlight for the end of the week. I will continue to do all that I can and all that I want as well on our platform because we have that independence. But when it comes to work for the conference, unfortunately, kind of my hands are tied on some things of wanting to. Obviously, would love to do some more and hoping to get the Instagram account popping for the BCFC. But that could also be helped and be enhanced by guys like you, or hopefully people that are listening by going and commenting on the BCFC and commenting on our stuff to let them know that you guys would like to see, maybe some makeover to the social media and stuff like that for the conference. So let them know. All joking aside, big shout out to Tyler, Blake, everybody behind the scenes. We appreciate you guys so much for everything you guys have done for us so far this season. Make sure you guys are checking out BCFC TV. If you guys are checking out games on a single game basis, I would highly encourage you guys to check out the season pass, or I believe there is even a team pass, if I'm not mistaken, for those options as well. So go check out the BCFC website as well. I'll leave that in the description below. Other than that, guys, the BC Lions are on a bye week this week, and the DI Raiders are on the bye week as well. So I'm actually going to be on a little bit of a vacation this upcoming weekend. So I'm going to be so making sure that the players to watch and stuff are out on Saturday. But as far as some coverage and post game for next week inside the BCFC, stay tuned to our social media platforms. Things might be a little bit delayed next week, especially with the holiday Monday and me being actually over in Vancouver next week. Going to be enjoying a little bit of water slides, actually. Going to check out Cultus Lake. Going to check out the Peony with some of the fellows. So I'm going to enjoy myself for the long weekend. So as I mentioned, stay tuned to our social media platforms and whatnot as we continue to follow and cover this season. Looking forward to week 3, though, in the BCFC, as the Valley Huskers will go to the Langley Rams coming off the bye week, and then the Prince George Kodiaks will travel to Okanagan to take on the Sun to see if they can knock off the dominant Okanagan Sun led by Coach Miller. So other than that, if you guys enjoyed today's episode and you guys are enjoying all the content so far, please be sure to leave a like on the video. Please be sure to leave a comment down below how you guys are feeling about maybe your favorite team across the league, how you guys are feeling about our content and our coverage. Letting us know any other feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. And most importantly, subscribing to the channel. When you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell. You guys get notified every single time we go live or upload a video like this one. Lastly, you guys can follow up on our social media platforms at Canadian Football Fanatics on Instagram and at _CF Fanatics on Twitter. So other than that, we hope you guys enjoyed another episode of Inside the BCFC, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.